husband, and his name was Streator, another name you probably recognize. Just a chance meeting at the train station in Cleveland, Ohio. They were both waiting for different trains, and they're talking, and Streator asks him what he's going to do, and he tells him his plight and what his plan to go to New York were. And he says, you know what? He says, I run an investment group. He said, during the war, we made a lot of money building railroads that the government and the army both used. And the name of our investment group is the Vermilion County Investors, because they were all, that northern Ohio were from Vermilion County area, Ohio. And so the Vermilion County Investors are looking to get into coal mining. Some guy in Ottawa, Illinois, sent me a sample of coal that they found at a little hardscrabble mining town south of Ottawa, and it's a really high quality coal. It burns clean and it burns long. And we want somebody to go out there and check out the coal fields, find out how much coal there is, and whether it's worth us to start mining operations in central Illinois. Plumb says, I'm your guy. I don't have to go anywhere else. I would love to do that for you. So he arrives here in what was then called Unionville, Illinois. It started out being called Hardscrabble. In the spring of 1865, because of the end of the war and Lincoln assassination, there was a big swell of patriotism throughout the North. Kind of like what we experienced right after 9/11 happened. You know, everybody was united. They wanted to change the name of the town from Hardscrabble to Unionville. So a lot of them started calling it Unionville. It was never officially named Unionville. But that's what everybody started referring to it as. And it just sounded better than Hardscrabble. Even in 1866, when Plumb arrived here, it was still only a couple hundred people. There were no more than 500 in all of Bruce Township, but around the Water Street, Cedar, Sherman Street, Main Street area there was still no more than a couple hundred people. And they were all coal miners. One guy had a blacksmith shop and a general store, and, but it was nothing much. And that's what that's what Plumb arrived at in February of 1866. He stayed at the house of Josiah O'Neill. Josiah O'Neill was the mover and shaker of young Unionville. He was the guy everybody looked to. He was the blacksmith. He was the leader of the community. His brother, who lived next door, owned a general store. His name was John O'Neill. John is the one who coined the phrase hardscrabble. That's the story, and we're sticking to it. There were 14 hardscrabbles in central Illinois, so it wasn't unique to this. It was a generic term for coal mining community. But the story is that John O'Neill saw a horse trying to bring supplies up the hill at the end of Cedar Street, and he said it's a hardscrabble to get up the hill, and he scratched it on a board above his general store. So I like that story better than there's 14, they're all called hardscrabble. So that's our story, we're sticking to it. That's how we got our name, and the name of our yearbook. So anyway, that's what Plumb arrived at. He did his borings, and he found there's a lot of coal. And by a lot, I mean a lot. There are 2 veins of coal underneath us right now. One vein's about 20 feet down, is about a 2-foot vein of coal. And it's not quite, that was from the last ice age, it's not quite as old. But then about 50 to 60 feet down is the mother lode. There is a 5 to 6 foot vein of coal down there, and it's very old and very compressed and very high quality coal. Both of those veins of coal cover this entire area, cover more than what is now the city of Streator. And so Plumb does his borings, and I don't know how you do borings in 1866, but he did them, and he found there's a lot of coal, and it's good coal. So he goes back to Ottawa, he telegraphs Dr. Streator, and he tells him, there's 2 veins of coal, it's very good high quality coal, and more coal than we could probably harvest in 100 years. Well, that's all Streator needed, so we wired him back and said, I authorize you to buy up to 4,000 acres if it's available. So Plumb went to the limit. He bought 4,000 acres. He wasn't going to take any chances. Plumb bought 4,000 acres. He immediately started his first, by August of that year, he was already had a mine shaft opened up. And that was called the Old Slope Mine. The Old Slope Mine was north of Cedar Street and south of Broadway Street. If you can picture where I'm at, if you come, and I know we've all done this, if you come out of Broadway Tap, out the front door, and you walk straight south, about 40 or 50 yards, before that railroad was there, you could walk straight over to Cedar Street. About halfway there is where the shaft was, the tipple. They call it, the big thing that goes above the shaft that takes the elevator up and down is called the tipple. And that's where the tipple was. And that's why Rush Street that comes off of Jefferson is only like 2 houses long, because it just went to the edge of where the coal mine was. So that's where the first shaft in Streator was. Well, the first commercial shaft. Up until then, there were a lot of individually owned shafts. People were digging down themselves. There were a lot of shafts along the bank of the river, because then you didn't have to dig down, you could dig in. So there were a lot of just independently owned coal mines. But this was the first commercial operation. It was not a big operation at all. He only went down enough to get into that first vein of coal. So he just barely went down 20 feet. Only hired 50 to 60 people. And that's all that worked at the Old Slope Mine for the entirety of the mine, 50, 60 people. That mine was in operation for 20, 25 years, but it was not a deep mine. But even for as little as he was harvesting and bringing out at that time, Plumb realized right away that he had a problem. He was harvesting more coal every day than he could sell, because there's only 200 people here. There's only one blacksmith. There's one blacksmith in Pontiac, one blacksmith in Ottawa. They can only use so much coal. He did not know where he was going to sell all this coal. And anybody knows anything about business and the supply and demand thing, you know, if your supply very much exceeds your demand, your price is going to drop. He knew he was going to go out of business real fast if he didn't do something drastic. Now, if nothing else, Plumb was a problem solver. And it seemed like most of the solutions he came up with were the right solutions. And that's why Streator grew, because he made the right decisions, thank God. He realized, okay, if I'm going to keep harvesting this coal, I got to sell it outside of where I'm at. To do that, I need a railroad line. The Illinois Central runs north-south, right down the spine of Illinois. And he knew if he could get the coal to the Illinois Central Railroad, he could sell it to Peoria and Rockford, Chicago, St. Louis, anywhere he wanted to. And then he could harvest as much as he needed. But the problem is, how do I get it from here to Boston or Winona, where the Illinois Central runs through? I need a railroad. And then he thinks, well, Vermilion County investors have a lot of money. They can build the railroad. And the more he thought about it, the more he thought, well, why should they? Why shouldn't I build the railroad? And then I can charge the Vermilion County Coal Company every time the train comes up and down the railroad. I can make a little money off of this too, can't I? And so that's what he's going to do. But now again, he's got another problem. He has no money. He just got here, and he hasn't sold much coal yet. I don't know what kind of agreement he had with the Vermilion County Coal Company. He got paid on commission or just a straight salary, but he hadn't sold much coal yet. So he had a problem. What do I do? Well, this is where his good friend James Garfield comes into play.